PR Connections Radio presents. Join the Love Yourself Foundation for LYF Voices at the Beverly Theater in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada on Saturday, November 15th from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Be inspired by speakers who share stories about how they have embraced self-love and improved their lives. Enjoy art, music, sound baths, and more. Network with mental health and wellness leaders. Come and nurture your own health and well-being. For more info about LYF Voices, visit their website, thelyfoundation.org.
Hi, everyone. Welcome. Lisa Vasquez coming to you as your host from PRConnectionsRadio.com, Liberating Menopause. And this season, welcome to November, our harvest time, a time to re-nourish ourselves for sure, and really look into what we're actually doing with ourselves, because this season we usually get very stressed. It's a very high-powered moment, even though, you know, it should be more relaxing, and especially for women in the workplace, especially at work. And with the way, you know, the world looks today, it gets a little more complicated every day. And so, but the thing about us is that we just keep moving through, and we don't stop to think of, you know, different things that we need to do for ourselves. And because my whole segment is all about liberating menopause, it's really getting you with education and a purposeful lifting. Because these are conversations that aren't being held, and some of them that are being held are usually a lot of myths and, you know, misleadings and things that equate with histories of the past. And today we've come from the past and created a whole new world of growing up in our world of menopause, growing up in our world of our cycle, understanding that, you know, the nourishment, everything that we need to do that we're not doing is what's important today, because we have a whole life to live. And this is like being an athletic sports when we come into the workforce. And we don't look at it that way. But as I traveled through it for 45 years, I seen, because if we don't work out, if we don't, you know, build the training camp that we need to create our environment and make it, you know, a more solemn place for us, because it's all stress. You know, it's when we wake up, the family members, you know, if you're a woman, you know, married with children, and all those things, you have a lot more. And then say, for instance, in-laws came in, there's even more stress coming out because there's so much to do in the morning just to get you started. And we just actually do that. Let's say we start up on a cold engine, and you know that we should start the engine off slow, right? We should warm it up, let it idle, you know, and drop the idle, and the car will start going. Now, of course, that's in the older days. I mean, with the more newer models, you know, with electric and everything, I don't think it has to be revved up so much. But the point being is that in our lives, for ourselves, warming ourselves up and preparing. In the past, I had mentioned, and, you know, and I still believe that starting on those telephones that we have is really something we should do later in the morning, not the first thing. And, you know, the first thing in the morning, and I say that in here, I come out at 5 a.m, right? And I really want you to hear me. So I guess that wouldn't be a really good thing to say, but, you know I'm bringing you a positive environment. I know that I'm bringing you a message to start that day, to bring clarity, to give you a aha moment, to get you to think, to get you to, wow, you know, when I get to work, I'm going to try doing this, or tonight to go to sleep, I'll, you know, prepare myself and gradually unwind myself as I enter those states of mind, right? Well, this whole conversation is about as we nourish ourselves, that visual for self, because, you know, this could be the season a lot of people run into the medical system, you know, going to their doctor's appointments, catching up, trying to get it closed out before that new year starts, and we have new payments to create and new, what do you call it when you go see the doctor and you have those initial payments, before we build up the insurance. So at this point right now, we should totally be vested with that insurance, where now it's just a matter of getting those screenings done, those checkups. But the thing is that we never have an itinerary, right? We always have one in anything else we do, and especially in a nourishing state of mind, right? We prepare, we think of what's dinner, we think of this, we think of that. And, we prepare, some people prepare that grocery list. There's always something, except for when it comes to our health, hormone health, and thinking about ourselves. And so what happens is that in the end, because this is how we always ran this race, and again, 45 years I watched it, I seen it, and even though biologically I didn't have children, I've watched, and I always celebrated and took the holidays so that people could be home with their families and do those things, right? Still stressful, and you still see it happening. But the thing about it is, the time that we're not giving ourselves first means that by the time we give everything that we need to present for the season to celebrate that feast day, we're drained. And this is why because things have slowed down financially for everyone, and sometimes in essence, having those things taken away because we relied on them so much is resorting. And what I'm seeing is everybody's going back to kind of the early days where we gathered together in groups, we supported each other. People are raising food funds and opening up their trunks and, having people pass through and collect food from them. Other people are creating more crafts and they're making things for the holidays more than anything. And these things were all done before technology ever came, before any of this was really happening with us. So, but again, it's the agenda, it's the tracking, it's the thinking about how we're going to plan this in our health field. We need to have that agenda created, because by the time you go to the doctor, he hasn't seen you in a year, but he probably pulled out his notes. He remembers, what has happened in the past, whatever. So he's kind of got his agenda already ready for you, especially if you had to do labs and annual screenings and all those things. So he's got the reports, he's got the labs, he's got everything that he's ready to tell you. But what is it that you're ready to tell them? And are you tracking what you're ready to tell them? And in a hormonal life, which we have, it's so important to have those chief complaints prepared. And with that chief complaint being, for instance, I'm tired. That could be anything, And so when they say, you go to the doctor and you say, I'm tired, well, they look at you and they want to see what your life's about. They're not looking at the tiredness of the energy being lost, maybe because you're depleting in hormones or things of that nature. It's just that, there's grandchildren around. There's a lot of things that get your day going. A lot of people start off with a lot of caffeine in the morning. By the time they come home, they're crashing off of that, so they're tired. There's different meanings to be tired. And some of the symptoms we miss and ignore and dismiss them, especially in the workplace, because no matter what, we have to get up and go to work, so whether we're tired or not, we're still going to push through and go through and, and repeat these trends that we do all the time. And so by the time you go to the doctor and you're talking about, that you're tired, it's kind of looking more of your lifestyle than your hormonal life. And so by having a tracking of each symptom, the time of day, how often is the severity? How often does it affect you? Is it the quality of your life, your relationships? How is that tiredness affecting you? Because, there's a tiredness and your symptoms are, the communication that your body's bringing out and speaking. Warning lights are appearing on your dashboard in your mind, but we're just ignoring them and passing through them because they're not alarms that we're used to responding to. So if they just light up, they're just lit up. And, at some point, maybe they'll go back and, shut off. But in a hormonal life, as we continue the trend and cycle through that, they could even increase and break down more. And, you lose more because you don't have people have hot flashes, but the severity of hot flashes that are coming, what time of day is that happening? Is that just the routine because you are going through the change? Is it something else that's exacerbating it even more? Some people have medical conditions and they're on certain medicines, and suddenly now they're walking into this new hormonal life that's going into fluctuations and changing, like perimenopause. So their medication can be being affected with the change that they're cycling through in their hormones. Sometimes it could really enhance and enlighten it even louder because of the state of the body's condition to begin with. So this is why being able to write the itinerary, seeing the differences, seeing when these things are happening, having that agenda, tracking what time that hot flash is happening. Is it always in the morning? Is it at night? Are your night sweats happening? What time of day is that occurring? Because how severe the issue is you present, how severe that is the importance to the doctor to really understand what's taking place in your body. Some people can be having seizures, and sometimes hot flashes really exacerbate that hormonally. So knowing your chief complaints, having an idea of the symptoms that your body is communicating to you by really writing it down, really creating that journal, because you have, again, if you're looking at it in the way of a sports athletic person, the minute we enter the work field, we are beginning to be challenged by all these new things that are going to occur. Besides everything we're about to learn, everything we're about to put at work from whatever studies we came through education to get the job that we're doing, but building that support in yourself is what's so important. Having that agenda. So you have to look at it like, say, for instance, you're going to be, in sports. Think of it as you are a sports person. You have to train, right? You have to have your water ready. You have to have your time that you're going to relax, the time that you're going to work out, the time that you're going to really increase strength in your body to do tomorrow's chore in that sports, whatever it is you're enrolling in. Well, at the workplace, this is something that we've never stopped to look at and think about. We never, we just wake up every day and everything's already all set. We wake up, we get up in the morning, we know there goes breakfast, there's this, feed the dogs, walk the dogs, do all these things and get ready to go. But where are we in that? We're not in there. What is it that we need at that moment that we can change that outcome in the morning so that it's not so stressful? Having that agenda, writing down, like waking up and having that moment of peace time to mentally engage yourself to come into this day is that mindset, conditioning. It is so important. And especially, I was talking about, I wanted to bring up the idea about cortisol base. So we don't know that we're having that. And I just recently was looking at some of my pictures and I noticed that I had that in the past. I've been doing a lot of different things to help the inflammation and change the way, doing supplements, things like that, things that I know that are going to support my inflammation, reduce it, cut down on my insulin resistance, stop me from having sugar spikes. I'm not a big sugar person to begin with, so anything that we do eat on a carbohydrate level, that helps bloat us and inflame us. It just depends. Processed foods and processed junk, people are in a hurry, they stop and reach for just anything. So this inflammation begins to start burning down our house inside. And so when I had heard this term cortisol based, I was like really surprised that the way this person was trying to grab a woman's attention, that's what they said. And I was like, wow, cortisol face, and it's a different kind of bloating that happens in our face because of inflammation. But we as women, and we don't really measure our inflammation. We don't really look at it that we're being inflamed unless we feel the bloating and unless we're kind of, diseased by it. Not diseased, but diseased by it. Then we could be noticing, oh, something else is happening here, but it's not going to really take you into the channels of inflammation. And these are what really works on a woman's body and really has effects. And that's why we have, as we develop through our hormonal cycles and everything, sometimes we have a lot more heart issues. We have a lot more joint pain that occurs, arthritis. Itis, anything that ends with the itis is usually inflammation because it's inflamed and that's in your joints. And so by really understanding that these are things that they're tricks and they're traps, because we are really feeling like we're doing everything correctly, but honestly this buildup is happening and really taking us down inside like a slow leak. And it's so slow and it's so whispering and silent that unless you're really engaged in yourself and really performing in a way that things on off schedule you'd recognize right away. That's our biggest problem, is it's not always recognized because it's just all in the mash of things. And this is why by the time the seasons come, here we are, we have to get ready for that big Thanksgiving dinner. People are running around trying to wonder where they're going to get that turkey from, what meals are out there that we can create that are being sold that's going to have a complete meal. Other people that want to really cook that, are gathering all the pieces that are going to go to that feast. And some of these things can be stressful, especially when you get to the store and you find out that one of the biggest parts of that meal is missing because it's all sold out. Now you're stressed because now what are you going to do? You waited till the last minute and now you need that seasoning, whatever it was that you needed. But again, so now here we've gone through that, and now Thanksgiving is over and the markets and sales are hitting, and we're wanting this and wanting that and getting ready for the next season of Christmas. By the time we get there, because we haven't supported ourselves in all of this commotion, we are the ones that are depleted by the time we want to give. And what we want to give first and foremost is to ourselves. That's self-care, that's self-love, and that sufficient focus on tracking things that are happening to you. So when you go to the doctor, you have a better regimen of what's going on with you. So you have a better understanding of yourself. So you know how you can slow things down, because that's what harvest time is all about. It's about a big reflection. It's about really taking account. The seasons have changed. Things are closing out as we come into the new seasons and start springing up with everything fresh. Even the world and nature starts to close itself down. In the summertime, they're all plump and, blistering with colors and deep green colors, and everything is happening and water is splashing, people are playing and all that, and everybody's active. And then it comes this time where we start to close down, time changes, we're going slower, but really we're kind of going faster because of the stress levels and everything that's going through these changes. And this is why that emotional symptom, the anxiety, the mood swings, different cognitive symptoms that, you could be having right now, but you're really thinking like it's nothing. And these are the little tracking things that I'm asking that you start to write down, because forgetting words when you're talking, how many times does that happen to you in a day? And is it happening, and is it increasing? Was it more today than last week? And are you noticing different things? These are the things, when you notice them, that you write down, because they may come back. And if they do, then you already have that part of your medical journal written. Oh yeah, I did have that 2 weeks ago. Where am I in my cycle, or what is happening to me right now? Am I entering perimenopause? Where am I? Have I had any hormonal baselines done, the chemistry, where I could see how full my tanks are, and am I losing anything in any of those capacities from, your sex hormones, testosterone, progesterone, estrogen, things like that. Because, there's a lot of other hormones that are happening in our body. But to measure, these are three that we usually start with to measure, to engage in a woman's life and really understand her more, because symptomatically, some of these changes can have those effects. And that's a lot where they come from the depletion, especially that inflammation. When estrogen does drop, we have more joint pain and things like that. Sometimes when estrogen drops, our cholesterol goes up. So it doesn't always mean that it's because of things that you're eating that increase that cholesterol. It could be because the levels have changed. So understanding and knowing this so that we're not stuck, we're signaled, and these signals are there. And when we decode the hormone hijack, because that's what's happening, we claim the rhythm beneath the routine. And that's what we want to find, because we are being hijacked and we don't even see it coming, because we're not used to this conversation. We're not used to understanding any of this. And, if it wasn't for all the women in my life, I wouldn't have understood it either. And this is why, again, I like to talk about it and bring this purposeful education to you, because these are common. These are things that are happening and been happening in our trends of life. And they were never recognized. When I was 46 years old, I gained, and I was up to 173 pounds. I wasn't thinking that I was in perimenopause. This was at 46. I wasn't thinking that. I can't really say that I had any kind of hot flashes or any of that. So I was I was able to pass through that without that reaction. But the weight gain and those different sizes that I increased to, I'm looking at it as everybody else does. It's my age. I'm 46 years old. I needed help because I knew I'm only so many pounds away from 200, and I wasn't headed that way. I needed something to revert that and take me back down. But what do? So hired a trainer, right? I hired a coach. I worked out, I trained, and sure, I started to lose weight and everything. But there was a lot more going on in me at the time that I knew about. And, working out and doing all that, that was the thing to do, because this is how we knew to lose weight and come back into our body balance. But nobody ever said, hey, have you checked your hormones lately? Do you think that, they're a little out of whack and this is why you're gaining weight? No, that wasn't a conversation. And that's why it's not a conversation today either. These are not things. These are not flashing lights that say, oh, it's time to check your hormones. That's why I'm here to tell you. This is what liberating menopause is all about. This is bringing that conversation, bringing the empowerment that lives behind that. Because in the past, we thought it was a destructive life force field that we were living in, because as we matured into it, things were happening and conversations were being had. And it was always, oh, that's happening to you, that happened to me. And this, we're all bio individuals. So even if it happened to somebody else, it's not going to be the same effects that's happening to you, because you're a bio individual. Some things may resemble that, but the actual condition of what you're feeling and the changes you're having are totally different from anybody else, just because that's our own unique code. And that's why when you're hijacked, we have to do the decoding. We need to listen, to reset, to move forward. I mean, with a plan to top it off. We really have to have that plan, because nourishing deeper, to listen, to reset. This part moves us forward with a plan in a woman's workplace for sure, because we have, as I said, we go to work, everything's already all planned. Everything's always usually all planned out for us, but what we're not planning is that self-care, that self-conditioning of ourselves, writing down, having these journals. A lot of women don't like to journal, and a lot of women do, but the medical journal, are you having that type of journal? The gratitude journal of having a good day in your health today, or the journal of, I'm having a little digression in my health today, because today I felt this and I felt like that. And, next week I'll be seeing my doctor. So, you're having all these measurements put out of when you're having these episodes and things are happening. The season isn't just about happy and healthy. It's about honest, because behind the holiday hustle, women in the workplace are running on fumes. And we all know that, especially because of how the world is going today. I mean, it's very challenging and we don't really see how things are going to work out. But, in all things, they will. We just have to patiently be there and sit there. But sometimes, because behind this season, with this all happening during this season, it's amplified even louder. And not because we're weak, not because we've been wired to override our own signals. I mean, that's what we've always been doing. This is why work is tied to survival. That's what work is, right? I mean, we need work to become independent in the future, right? And this game plan that I'm talking about, when you look at yourself as a sports person, being athletic, getting all those nourishments, doing the right things with the time on the clock that we have for today. Because again, today is our tomorrow until we get there, right? Because we don't know about tomorrow. We only know what we have today. But what we want to prepare for today is for tomorrow when it comes. It's going to be ready. It's going to be a brighter day. As they say, joy comes in the morning, right? It might be doom and gloom today. You weren't feeling so good, but a little rest by the time you get home. Hopefully you wouldn't have to do anything more stressful at home by cooking and doing all that. You'll be able to just go relax in a world where that could be possible, but it's not possible for everybody. Everybody has to keep going. There's other people that have other jobs too. So from one job, they switch out and go to the next one. But understanding that our body is really brilliant, it's broadcasting through those mood shifts and energy crashes for sure. The cycle of chaos, sometimes, you start missing cycles and things start changing during that time. And it's not betraying you. It's begging you to listen. And every day you're like, oh, this hurts, and even though you're expressing that it hurts, sometimes mentally you're really feeling like, oh man, I only have 3 more years before I retire and look what's happening to me now. Those kind of stories start coming to you. And this is why when you prepare, when you nourish, when you sleep, when you find the balance, when you check on where you're imbalanced and have those measurements, coming to the doctor and saying, hey, I'm getting ready to start working out. I'm 50 years old or 55. I want to do a bone density because I want to check and make sure that I'm not really turning into rubber and I'm going to crack somewhere. A lot of women did that. I would work in bone density. Anything with women, I was always working and doing this. And so during the bone density times, I would be talking to some women who, man, gung-ho on doing hiking and things like that, inviting me to go with them. And then suddenly I'm looking at the results and I'm like, wow, there is so much power in her, but she's 57. She never checked her bone density. And now she is so osteoporotic. And that dream of me reaching to go out with her and go hiking wasn't going to happen anymore because I already saw her results. And when the time she sees the doctor, she's going to get those results. And she's going to find out that she's not going to be able to be doing that much more at the rate that she was doing it, because she never checked, so she didn't know. So there you have that slow leak that was building up, hijacking her, stealing out of her bones, and she never knew it. But she thought her traits that she was doing, working out, doing those trails, walking all the time. I mean, I can't forget her because she was so strong and positive in, who she was at her age. And I was like, wow, yeah, because I don't hike, and I love to go hiking, especially somebody that knows the trail and how to do it, So, it was all sounding great until then I saw the results. And, those are the sad moments because now I know, and it's a matter of days when she's going to get those results. And then she's going to know. And, sometimes you feel like you betrayed her because you couldn't tell her. And she has to think, wow, I was talking to that girl and, she knew, and I did know. And again, like I said, but a hijack nonetheless. That's what I'm talking about. That these are the things that can sneak up on you because you didn't know, because these things were not checked, because you didn't know how to go ask for this. You received their agenda, you got your reports, everything was fine, annual screenings came back, you're all good for another year, but you didn't come and say anything to them about what you want to know about you. And this is why tracking, this is why self-tracking, learning from your life, because you're living it, you know what's happening to you. This is what that reset's all about during these holidays, so that you can have a full cup to overflow into whoever it is that you're building up. To be a champ, you have to build a champ, but you have to have enough support in you to build that champ, so that they have something that they can empower themselves because they've watched what you've done. And it's just a gathering, it's whatever needs to be done, but on a mental way for yourself, is thinking about you. And it's just a holiday reset that we don't stop and think about. But again, at this time of the year, it's really important to bring this to your attention, because I've passed through the 45 years. I've come out pretty well. I'm pretty happy with myself and proud that I was able to do this, but I did it because of all the support of the women. I didn't just do this because I woke up one day and knew I should do that and knew I should do that. I didn't know any of that back then. I was going off of everything they were empowering me with in a conversation. Like if they said they did this and that wasn't a good thing to do, when it came up for me, I knew, oh yeah, no, I'm not going to do that because they told me, and things like that. How some women, they had been so sick. I mean, sick and on medications, and they would tell me the stories, because now they're coming to me and they're in a better shape and a better condition. And then they start telling me how they changed the way they ate. They changed this, and that took them off this medication. And then they changed this, and then they started working out. And so all these little tidbits that they put together in my basket were things that I grew off of. Now, today, after studying holistic health coaching, understanding food is medicine, really knowing back then, 2003 was the first time that I met a woman, and she actually had wrote a book. Her name is Helen Smith. She has a really cool cookbook. She gave me one of the copies. She signed it to me back in 2003. Her conversation was on all natural foods. 2003, this is in thoughts in our mind. And again, in the age stage that I was in, loved cooking, but those kind of thoughts were far off from me. I wasn't really thinking like that. So she's bringing up different things. And again, she gave me that cookbook. And so again, that was so empowering, because that conversation she gave me back then is where I live today. And that's what I mean, is that because all those little tidbits, like little bird seeds, I followed the trail, and what it did was blow me up into this field unimaginable to me, because honestly, I was always the chubby girl. I always was, I mean, I hated it, but growing up as a little kid, chubby all the time, chubby. So I was always fighting the beast. I mean, the beast of burden was definitely on me, and I had to fight it every step of the way. I mean, I fluctuated at hormonal time. At 30 years old was the first time I was at 163, did some more of those diets that were happening back then, the aerobic classes and all that stuff. But at 46 years old, it didn't work as well as I was hoping, because now I'm 10 pounds more than that. That's 15 years later. But it was all about hormone changes and challenges that I didn't know I was in. And until I did, and that wasn't until 2017, because in 2015, I was coming out of a whirlwind of stress changes. In 2009, the world collided with housing, mortgages, all that stuff. So I was caught up in a lot of that. So I had a lot of losses. There wasn't a lot of jobs. A lot of that closed down. I was only part-time. So to get a full-time job, that wasn't a big possibility, because the world had just gone crazy, right? So there was a lot of stress happening. But again, I didn't know that I was living in stress, because these are not things that unless they really hit you, you know you're there, right? So by 2015, I had saw my hair thinning, all these things. But again, I didn't know that it was a hormonal cycle that was happening. I didn't know that all these things were changing because of my age in 2015. And then 2017, I went to health coaching school. So I'm in radiology, remember, all these years. And so by watching everything inside through the lens, now I'm seeing how it communicates. Now I'm understanding how that food works, how it nourishes you, how it coats your stomach and helps the lining and helps you avoid ulcers and all these things that I would study in radiology when people come in for that upper GI study of their stomach, drinking the barium, seeing all these. Again, the house is on fire because that's a lot of inflammation. That's all impacted in that. So as I learned after health coaching 2017, here I am 2018, growing up through this, nourishing my hair. Honestly, I didn't have all this hair back then, and I never had bangs. I lost those a long time ago when I chemically played with some blondes, and I never thought they'd be back, and they're growing and nourishing, and I'm excited about that. So apparently since 2017, I have changed the soil in my body. I track myself living in action, living every day, knowing, noticing. I would measure my hair loss in the shower. I would coat and note, I would have different envelopes to show every time I washed my hair, how much was it the same? Did it maintain itself? Did it increase? Recently, there's other hormonal sites that support menopause, and some of those women are suggesting that they started this one hormone, what have you, and they're showing pictures of their hair loss, and I'm talking clumps in the shower. I never had anything like that, but what I'm watching with them is pretty scary, and knowing what I know today is like, I wish I could reach out to everybody and tell them. And this is why liberating menopause is so important to me, because I have a voice, and I thank Las Vegas, Nevada for bringing me to this position to be able to amplify everything I learned in the 45 years. And now it's 47 years later, because I've been retired almost 2 years. And so to know all this and bring it and engage you in it and teach you, because I really want to be that coach for you. I really want you to learn to look at yourself as you're walking through these years of that workplace, nourishing yourself, being a team player for yourself, because you will be the only one cheering yourself on. You will be the only one noticing these things. And so that is why it's so important to track your bloating, track your weight gain, see how you're fluctuating, look at your age, look at what's next on the agenda. What decade are you in? What time is it right now? There's certain decades that we have to do certain things, building our calcium at 50, because, we want to have stronger bones and stronger muscles, right? By the time we hit 60, there's so many different things in every year that we need to develop ourselves in. It's not just living life, going to work, eating and nourishing off, the same things. And that's what happens also. We carry the same traits of all that food, and we continue it on when it's time to ease up on our stomach acids, because they're easing up on you, whether you know it or not. And they're not there and as strong as they used to be. And that's why people get bloated and they're stuffed and they're sick and they're feeling like that, because they're not having digestion. And it's taking hours just to relieve yourself of that. So to reset is so important. To rest, and really rest. Rest your mind. Find a place or a space that this can be done. I know it's not easy. I know it's not, because I already worked through the work field. I've seen it. But I did go running at lunchtime. I did for a whole hour. I would go run because I got a whole nother afternoon that I have to work with a lot of people. They're all bringing different energies to me, and I needed to clear out the morning energy. I needed to change. So maybe you don't want to go running, but you could go take that long walk just to air all that out, to regroup yourself and bring yourself back into the job and have a new energy to finish off the day. And then, go home, have your rest, do what you got to do. But don't forget, really shut those phones off, close it out, give your mind a reset, let it close when it's supposed to instead of ongoing. Don't let the car stay running all night. You don't want to do that because this is what's taking our bodies down today. And so with that, I just want to welcome you again into November as we start to prepare for whatever festivals you're about to do. But remember, you are the party. It's all in you. And so creating the festivities in you is what's going to burst and bring happiness to everyone else because you feel good. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, PRConnectionsRadio.com, for allowing me, Lisa Vasquez, to be the host on Liberating Menopause. Take care. Bye.
The Cause Marketing Chamber of Commerce brings businesses and nonprofit organizations together to create synergistic relationships that benefit the community. Join our tribe to network with community and business partners, increase sales, improve fundraising efforts, differentiate your brand, help worthy nonprofits, and more. Become a member today. Visit our website, causemarketingchamber.com, to see how we can help you grow your business or your nonprofit organization. Click on the Join Now button at causemarketingchamber.com. Help us build a world where social responsibility is the new bottom line. PR Connections Radio thanks you for watching this podcast. Check out more episodes of this show and our others at prconnectionsradio.com.